Many people are questioning the number of skills. Here is a unified reply. To be honest, in the anime, the elves basically use no more than 4 skills in a battle. The only one who uses more than a dozen skills at a time is the fast dragon of the Orange Alliance, and this is still an early work. With the development of the plot, the world view of the anime is gradually moving closer to the game. If you observe carefully, you will find that Pishin has learned the electric ball in BW, but he has forgotten the volt attack. Zai personally introduced the skills of the skin to a child, which are 4 skills. It's not that the author forcibly limited the number of elves' skills here, but this is the case in the original work, and the author just respects other people's settings. Of course, this book is a realistic novel, so skills restrictions will definitely be released later. Just like the Beast, it is impossible to use only 4 skills. Attentive readers may have discovered that, as mentioned in the previous article, Muse's Baa Li Yang can try to control the 5th standing skill when he reaches the elite level. Hey, wake up, help me with my staff. After shaking for a while, Yun Ning woke up from his sleep. After wiping the mucus from the corner of his eyes, he skillfully found his glasses on the table with both hands. Did you go to work so soon? Yun Ning thought in his heart, I helped Lao Yang in the warehouse to carry the goods in the morning, but I was exhausted. I finally got to rest on my stomach during the lunch break. I didn't expect to go to work so soon. It's time. I was thinking, put on my glasses, and after focusing my eyes, I found that the environment I was in was not quite right. What's the situation? Didn't I sleep in the technical department's office? What is this place? It doesn't look like the company's auditorium. Yun Ning found that the surrounding environment was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where it was for a while. On the stage, an old Mediterranean man was giving a speech, and he seemed to have heard that strange Mandarin pronunciation somewhere. Where is it? Yun Ning habitually touched his chin with his left hand. It was very smooth, not something that his 200 yuan razor could shave. What about you, stupid? The voice that woke him up just now sounded again. Turning his head and looking, I'm going, what the hell? Yun Ning felt his heart skipped a beat for 0.1 second. Isn't this my junior high school classmate Suz Hizan? Why is he still so young after so many years? The elixir of life. Yun Ning was a little stunned, feeling that the whole world was no longer what he was familiar with. Why are you so stunned? Hurry up and give me some advice. Suz Hizan said. Saying that, he handed over the mobile phone in his hand. Yun Ning looked down and saw a cute Ibrahimovic. What do you think of Ibrahimovic? He looks so cute. He will definitely attract the attention of countless girls when he enters university in the future. This is an artifact of picking up girls. Coupled with my handsome face, I will definitely be able to get off the list at the speed of light. Said as he continued, Suz Hizan's eyes lit up, as if he had seen his beautiful life surrounded by countless girls who wanted to hug Ibrahimovic in the future. Wait, it's a little messy, let me stroke it. Yun Ning felt a little confused, is this a Pokemon? Suz Hizan is talking to me about Pokemon? When did he like watching anime? Hasn't he always liked watching entertainment variety shows? Also, what did he mean to me? Buy an EV doll? And then use this doll to chase girls in college? Does the girl think he is mentally retarded? No, his name was Hizan, and he was mentally retarded. But to chase girls with Ibrahimovic's doll, even if people don't think you are mentally retarded, will they feel very naive? And chasing a girl is something a doll can do? Yun Ning expressed some doubts, and when she thought about her history of chasing girls over the years, she couldn't help but burst into tears. But what does he mean by going to college in the future? Isn't our age already graduating? Could it be that he was admitted to graduate school? You mean Ibrahimovic's doll? Are you going to use Ibrahimovic's doll to chase the girl? Yun Ning asked uncertainly. What doll? Are you stupid? Hizan looked at Yun Ning in surprise. When you go to sleep at the graduation ceremony, people are going to sleep stupid? The principal's Mandarin has such a powerful effect? No wonder our school has been counting down for so many years. It seems that it is not that the students are not working hard, but that the principal has a problem. After speaking, Hizan raised his head at a 45-degree angle and looked up at the ceiling, with a gesture of sympathy. No, I'm a little dizzy right now, can you explain it to me? Yun Ning pretended that he had just woken up and his mind was not clear. At this time, he needed more information. Yun Ning can now confirm that something strange has happened to him, but he can't just ask people, "Girl, what year is it now?" In this way, even an idiot will find out that there is a problem. It's the right time to act stupid and be stunned. Get more information and understand the current situation. Looks like I'm really sleepy. Hizan touched Yun Ning's forehead with his hand. We are at the graduation ceremony now. As long as we get the graduation certificate later, we can have our own elves. How is it? Are you very happy and excited? Graduation ceremony? Yun Ning raised his head suddenly, and a banner with the words Revitalizing High School 2015 Graduation Ceremony hung on the beam above the podium. Yun Ning was in a trance. 2015? Isn't it 2019 now? I just graduated from college and joined a company's technology department as a technician. How come the time has returned to 2015? Just as he was thinking, a sentence from the old Mediterranean man on the stage floated into Yun Ning's ears. Classmates, you have to remember that your appearance changes your luck. Yes, it was his high school principal. Yes, there is no one else except him who can say that knowledge changes fate as beauty changes fate. This unique Mandarin pronunciation is the only one Yun Ning has encountered over the years. Now Yun Ning can be sure that he should have crossed, but the time of crossing is not long, only 4 years. Yun Ning is trying hard to recall what major events will happen in the past 4 years, to see if he can participate in it and make a fortune. Graduate student at a prestigious university. Why are you so stupid? What's so good about the Mediterranean Sea? Come and discuss our initial spirit. Hizan's voice sounded from his ears again. If Ibrahimovic can't do it, you can consider Piku, the same cute thing, but Piku can't control electricity well, and sometimes he will give electricity to himself, then it's not good to get electricity to the girl. If it's not good, just Pikachu. Practical. Sex is stronger than Ibrahimovic. At least Pikachu can charge her phone when she is out of the house. It is no problem to be a large power bank. Think about it, when you meet at the road and her phone is dead, at this time, letting cute things like Pikachu go up to chat, not only can solve the problem of the girl, but also attract the girl's attention, so the probability of success will not increase. Hizan continued to immerse himself in his own fantasies. A call brought Yun Ning back to reality. Ibrahimovic? Pikachu? Isn't this a creature that only exists in games and anime? How can I hear what Hizan said? These creatures do exist and can be raised by humans. Could it be that you have traveled to the world of Pokemon? But it's not right. The same table is the same table in the high school, and the principal is the principal of the high school. Yun Ning can be sure that he must still be on the earth, but the time has changed. Maybe you need to continue to set up some more information. Just Pikachu, Ibrahimovic is so expensive, can you afford it? Yun Ning tentatively asked. This is Yun Ning's previous experience of playing Pokemon. Ibrahimovic basically has no wild ones, and they can only be obtained through special means, while Pikachu is distributed in a large number in the Everpan forest. Moreover, Ibrahimovic's evolution type has also surpassed Pikachu's evolution type in terms of racial value. Not only is it stronger, but the key is that Ibrahimovic has a variety of evolutionary types, which are more flexible and can deal with various situations. Ibrahimovic is more expensive. Hizan said in surprise. Ibrahimovic and Pikachu are about the same price, where is it more expensive? You don't even know the price of elves, right? Yun Ning was a little surprised. Ibrahimovic is obviously rarer than Pikachu, and the evolutionary type is more powerful. How can it be the same price as Pikachu? Although Pikachu can carry lightning beads to double his double attack, but Pikachu is essentially a crispy skin, and it might be possible for a migrant worker, repair old man, to throw a quick punch in seconds. What's more, where are the lightning beads so easy to find? The difficulty of finding a lightning ball is not much different from that of obtaining an EV. Ibrahimovic's evolution is obviously stronger than Raichu in terms of racial value. How could it be the same price as Pikachu? Yun Ning continued to ask tentatively. You. Yun Tianhuang is above, please accept the little one. Suz Hizan's expression was extremely exaggerated. Ning bowed down. I never imagined that there would be someone with lofty aspirations by my side, it really makes me ashamed. After speaking, he wiped the sweat that didn't exist on his forehead. No, what do you mean? Yun Ning was a little baffled, he was just talking about the pros and cons of Ibrahimovic and Pikachu and, as for such a big reaction? You do not know. What do I know? You really don't know? Are you kidding me? Nonsense, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Hurry up, it made me look dazed, it's fun, isn't it? No, you are really a weirdo. You are about to receive your first elf. You don't even know the common sense of elf. Suz Hizan asked suspiciously. In his opinion, Yun Ning should not ask this question. A common sense question. A common sense question. Yun Ning's heart skipped a beat, it was broken, could it be seen that something was wrong with him? You can only pretend to ask casually, are you talking about the common sense written in the textbook? Yun Ning made up his mind, if the other party said that these common senses were in the textbook, then he would say that he was a scumbag and didn't learn it well. If these are not the contents of the textbooks, then it means that you have spent all your mind on the textbooks and have no time to pay attention to extracurricular things. How could these things be written in textbooks? Suz Hizan said, it seems that your mind should be on the textbook. The purchase and sale price of elves will not be written in the textbook. The textbook will only contain the evolution of elves' characteristics and race values. How can things that are not on the table be written into textbooks? You know, the book says let's use love to influence elves and make them our partners. Oh, it sounds nice. To put it bluntly, isn't it just using strength to subdue elves? But the question is, where do we civilian families have the strength to conquer elves? Cultivating elves requires a lot of resources, and the strength of elves without resources is no different from that of ordinary animals. Little Rata is really useless when no one is trained. I will definitely be able to beat ordinary mice. There was a lot of information in Suz Hizan's words, and Yun Ning couldn't digest it for a while, so he could only continue the cliché and asked, then why do you react so much to what I said? Also, what is the price of Ibrahimovic and Pikachu? Thing. You. Suz Hizan looked at Yun Ning and was at a loss for words. After all, it is very difficult to explain a thing to a little wight. After reorganizing the language, Suz Hizan said, let's start with the price of Pikachu and Ibrahimovic. The price of these two elves is actually about the same, only a few thousand yuan, which is about the same as the price of a laptop. I just said, if the elves are not cultivated, they are not much different from ordinary animals, and the cost of elves' cultivation. Suz Hizan leaned on the back of the chair, sighed, completely relaxed his body, and said, do you know why I reacted so much? It's because of the evolution you just said, the evolution of Ibrahimovic and Pikachu needs the help of evolution stones. And the price of an evolution stone? The minimum is several million. After all, no matter how rare elves are, they can reproduce, but evolution stones are extremely rare. Use one less than one. At present, humans are still there is no stable way to obtain evolution stones, and elves researchers speculate that the generation of evolution stones may be related to divine beasts. After speaking, he lowered his head and played with his mobile phone. The pictures on the phone screen switched back and forth between Pikachu and Ibrahimovic. After a few seconds, Suzhizan said again, "For a commoner family like us, don't think about evolution and the battle between elves. After all, my parents' annual income is only hundreds of thousands of yuan. Even if they don't eat or drink, they should. It takes decades to afford an evolutionary stone." Although Suzhizan tried to keep his voice steady, Yunning could still hear the trembling. "Buy a cute elf to help us court, then finish college, find a stable job, and live a peaceful life is what we need to consider. Young people don't daydream, with peace of mind that's the right thing to do." Suzhizan raised his head, looked at Yunning, and said to Yunning in a joking tone. Although Suzhizan said it very lightly, Yunning still saw a trace of unwillingness in his eyes. "What about those powerful elf trainers? If everyone is like you, how did those powerful trainers come into being?" Yunning found the loophole in Suzhizan's words. "Can't everyone be a low-level trainer? There will always be a strong presence. This is the theorem that every world will not change. Why do you think everyone is like me?" Suzhizan found that this was the first time he knew his desk mate today, and the whole ivory tower looked like he didn't know the suffering of the world. Although commoners like us account for the majority of society, there are also a lot of wealthy families. The children of these big families not only have easier access to powerful elves, but also have more money to nurture them. It's like we are the most powerful in China. The Lu family of the dragon family, everyone in their family can have a thorn dragon king as their core combat power, and the direct descendants of the Lu family can even have a miniature dragon as their initial elf. Look at what kind of elves these are. Not to mention the scarcity of mini dragons. Even if a family like ours gets a mini dragon, how much resources do we have to cultivate it? I'm afraid it won't be able to evolve into a huck if it dies of old age. Dragon. As for the Dragon King." Suzhizan paused for a moment and continued, "This is the real gap between the big family and us civilians. There are black horses everywhere, but how many of them can evolve into sea thorn dragons? The lifespan of black horses is only 5 short years or so, and Mohaima needs at least advanced strength to evolve into a sea thorn dragon. Like our county, there are only a few senior trainers in total, and they all hold important positions in various departments. What's more, it is not enough to evolve into a sea thorn dragon. After all, the lifespan of a sea thorn dragon is only 10 years. Think about it, U18 Mohaima, who was subdued at the age of 28, has finally acquired high-level strength, but it will die of old age when you are 28 years old, so isn't the resources you invested in the cultivation in the early stage equivalent to a waste of water? The evolution of the Dragon King is different. From the original water system to a combination of the water system and the dragon system, the most important thing is that the lifespan of the dragon-type elves is very long, and breaking 100 years is not a problem. According to legend, there are many emerging families. They will subdue a few bluebirds and evolve into Kixie bluebirds after reaching advanced strength, which can protect the safety of the family for generations. Suzhizan changed his posture and continued, "The Lu family has a fast dragon in charge. The dragon scales on the fast dragon can help the sea thorn dragon to activate the dragon bloodline in its body and evolve into the thorn dragon king. This is the true heritage of the big family. It can be said that the number of dragon scales that limit the Lu family Thorn Dragon King team is the number of dragon scales. After all, the dragon scales that can activate the Sea Thorn Dragon bloodline are not ordinary dragon scales. The specific situation is the secret of the big family, not us ordinary people can know." After he finished speaking, he lowered his head and picked up his mobile phone. "Now I know why I want you to without thinking too much. Not to mention those elves who need evolution stones, even if they are elves who don't need evolution stones, think about it. To evolve, the energy required is not affordable for small families like us. What's more, the lifespan of the elves is in front of you. You have worked so hard to put in a lot of resources to make your elves evolve. As a result, they will die of old age in a few years, and the gains outweigh the losses. If you really want to play Elves vs. If you are addicted, I suggest you to conquer a unicorn. As long as you get out of the rookie stage and enter the primary level, you can evolve into a giant stinger with a certain fighting power. Although it only has a lifespan of 2 years, the investment is small. You can still play. Isn't there any way to increase life expectancy? Yun Ning asked unwillingly, forgetting that he was covering Suze Hizan for a while. This question is likely to arouse Suze Hizan's suspicion. How not? Suze Hizan said without raising his head. Isn't it all said in the textbook? Evolution, the evolution of elves itself is a kind of sublimation of life level. After evolution, the lifespan of elves usually increases to a certain extent. There is also the legendary super-evolution. It is said that if elves can break through themselves, to achieve super-evolution without the aid of evolution stones, then the lifespan of this elf can at least exceed 100, even if it is just a giant stinger with only a short lifespan of 2 years. Suze Hizan's words made Yun Ning feel a little stunned. He didn't expect that even super-evolution had been discovered in this world, so how much advantage does he have as a traveler? This is Yun Ning's biggest doubt right now. Looking at Suzi's lack of interest, it was obvious that he was hit by reality. He lowered his head and looked at the pictures of Ibrahimovic and Pikachu on the phone, wondering what he was thinking. Yun Ning didn't speak. He took out his mobile phone and started to surf the internet. He couldn't ask any more questions. If he continued to ask, it would most likely arouse suspicion from the other party. Skillfully unlocking his mobile phone, the various apps on the screen are still familiar, and when he opens the forum, what catches his eye is a post titled "How to Use 30 Million to Cultivate an Elite Elf." Driven by curiosity next, Yun Ning clicked in. The first thing I saw was the familiar and tactile laxatives. People are just starting to compete in Tianzu, and then began to talk at length. Yun Ning watched patiently, and the more he read, the more speechless he felt. This answerer actually asked the landlord to cultivate 1 ghost stone, and then pays an elite trainer to help him win a pixie, and after ghost stone eats this pixie, he can evolve into a Jengar with elite strength. Looking at the group of people downstairs discussing the feasibility of the matter, Yun Ning was speechless for a while. Can this kind of urban legend be taken seriously? Silently clicked the cross in the upper right corner and entered other websites to continue to learn about the world. The headlines are all kinds of news about elves, or a certain company has developed equipment suitable for elves training, or a certain university holds a college student elves competition who wins, or there is an elves riot in a certain place. The Alliance has already dispatched elite trainers to suppress. The history of the world is what Yun Ning is most concerned about. After some investigation, Yun Ning learned that although this world is very similar to the world he lived in his previous life, the history is completely different. It is not the people of the previous life who ended the ancient monarchy. It was the various aristocratic families who were fed up with the oppression of the king, so they united to overthrow the king's rule and formed the world's elves alliance. The uprising started from the continent of Europa and then spread all over the world. Each country formed its own elf alliance, and the power in the alliance was also from various big families. The commoners were the pawns of the aristocratic families during the uprising, so the aristocratic families also gave the commoners certain opportunities and upward channels. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. At least the whole society looks the same as in the previous life, and commoners can climb up through their own efforts, but it is the big family like the Liu family who really control the world. Not to mention anything else, a fast dragon that has lived for hundreds of years flew out and easily leveled a county without a problem. A text message reminded. It turned out to be a piece of news pushed by the Genie Tao Xiao app. Yun Ning clicked to view it, and it was a short video called Eastern Dragon King vs. Western Dragon King. In less than a minute, the number of hits has exceeded 10 million. With a flick of the thumb, the video starts playing. It can be seen that the battle point is above a sea, and it is unknown whether it is in the sea area around China or the sea area on the Europa side. The characters in the video are very small, and the people who were obviously photographed are far away. We can only vaguely see two shadows flying against each other in the sky. Lights of various colors shoot out from the mouths of both parties. Well, the blue one should be the freezing light. The yellow one should be 100,000 volts. Wait, what is the white one? Could it be to destroy the death light? All kinds of light fell on the sea. This sea area was frozen for a while, and the water in that sea area was blasted to the sky for a while. In this environment, the two sides of the war, who were originally unable to see clearly, became even more blurred. Suddenly, I don't know which Dragon King's destructive ray of death. After being avoided by the other party, it landed on a small island in the distance. In an instant, the small island exploded and fell apart. The smoke and dust in the sky blocked the view of the camera. After the dust settled, the two sides of the war had no idea where they flew, and the video ended here. All kinds of 666 floated on the barrage, and Yun Ning was dazzled by all kinds of touts. Yun Ning was looking at it in fascination, and the voice of the dean on the stage came from there. Please come to the 3rd and 4th class of high school to get your graduation certificate. Yun Ning looked down at his graduation certificate, which had the words 2015 graduates of Zhenxing Senior High School written on it. At the same time, he also posted a photo of himself, in which he was smiling very young. Looking up at the crowd on the street, the owner of the hawker still looks familiar to him, but he is surrounded by all kinds of elves, including long-tailed hens and monkeys. These elves help stall owners sell things or collect money. It is also a picture scroll of people and spirits living in harmony. There are not many bosses pushing tricycles out to set up stalls today. After all, today is the graduation ceremony of the Senior 3 graduates. The students in the 1st and 2nd grades did not have classes today, and the number of passengers dropped by 2/3. Many bosses choose not to come out to make money today. Normal. Looking back at the gate of the alma mater, this is the place to accompany me for 3 years. From today onwards, I will be a member of society in the future. I can't help but feel a little funny. When I was studying, I was very envious when I saw people from the society entering and leaving my school. Now I want to be one of them, but I am very reluctant to give up. Maybe this is growth? In a previous life, I heard people say that the so-called alma mater is the place where you scold her 8 times a day but you are not allowed to speak ill of her. Although her alma mater was only the worst high school in the county, and she was a few minutes away from entering the technical school, but today in Yun Ning's heart, she is the best high school. In fact, Yun Ning didn't figure it out himself. What really made him reluctant was not the school itself, but the green high school career that was gone forever. It's over. Yun Ning sighed and put the diploma in his hand into his school bag. Tightening the backpack straps on his shoulders, he embarked on the road home after 3 years of walking. My high school career is over, but the life I have experienced has just begun. I couldn't help but think of a famous quote from a previous life: this is not the end, this is not even the beginning of the end, but perhaps this is the end of the beginning. Yes, Alexander once said, I come, I see, I conquer. Since God brought me into this world, how can I not do something that is enough to leave a mark in history? As a traverser, if you live your life in a mediocre way, I am afraid that you will be thrown into the reverse world by Arceus as a door god? Wait, Arceus? Will it be related to it when I travel to this world by myself? Yun Ning looked up at the sky, and found that the sky was clear, there was no cloud, and no strange eyes were looking at him. He breathed a sigh of relief and recalled the information about the world that he had just learned online during the graduation ceremony. Humanity seems to have not discovered the existence of Arceus, including other first-level gods. Only certain secondary gods are seen by humans from time to time. It is said that a certain heavenly king-level master in China has subdued a frozen bird, and I don't know if it is true. What are you thinking? A heavy slap landed on Yun Ning's shoulder. Suzhizan's voice came from Yun Ning's ear. I miss your initial elf. Yun Ning replied. He rubbed his right hand on his left shoulder. I want to die, it hurts me so hard. A manly man, is it important to be so strong? Suzhizan looked at Yun Ning with contempt. Tell me, is it better for Ibrahimovic or Pikachu? So much strength? Would you like to give it a try? Have you ever slapped your own father like that? Yun Ning refused to suffer. Anyway, it is a general rule of the universe that boys like to be their brothers' fathers. I advise you to choose Ibrahimovic. If nothing else, Ibrahimovic has a longer lifespan than Pikachu. If Pikachu does not evolve into Raichu, his lifespan will be about 5 years, and Ibrahimovic can live for at least 10 years. The life expectancy, if raised well, can live to 15 years old. Yun Ning has found some rules now. The lifespan of elves in this world is related to ordinary animals. The lifespan of seahorses is about 5 years, so the lifespan of Mohama is also about 5 years. Ibrahimovic is a fox elf, so the lifespan is 10 years. 15 years. As a mouse spirit, Pikachu only has a lifespan of about 5 years, which is stronger than that of ordinary mice. If Piku does not have enough energy to evolve into Pikachu, his lifespan will not exceed 3 years. Thinking of this, Yun Ning couldn't help but associate Piku with the hamsters in his previous life. They were both pet rats and their lifespans were similar. As far as you look, even if you have cute things to help you, it is difficult to find a partner in college. If you raise an Ibrahimovic, you will still be able to use it when you step into society in the future. If you raise a Pikachu, your sister may not catch up. Pikachu will return to heaven first. Although Suzhizan was indeed a little handsome, Yun Ning would not admit it. In fact, Yun Ning also knew in his heart that Suzhizan in his previous life found a girlfriend soon after he entered university, and it was the girl who took the initiative to chase him. Friends often show affection in the circle of friends. The key is to change girls from time to time. At that time, Yun Ning was so jealous that the walls separated, and in a rage, Suzhizan's circle of friends was blocked. It makes sense, Suzhizan nodded involuntarily. After all, she is still a child who just graduated from high school. I still don't know how hungry and thirsty girls are in college. Many good girls in high school will let themselves go after entering college and take the initiative to pursue their own happiness. This is what Suzhizan told Yun in his previous life. Rather. But now Suzhizan is still a pure and good boy, not the gun king who came out of the gunfire later. What about you? Have you made up your mind about your initial elf? Suzhizan continued to ask. Not yet, how can it be so easy? Yun Ning sighed, the reality he just found online made Yun Ning a little breathless. I still want to try it, I'm still young, what if I succeed? Yun Ning said jokingly, learning from the tone of a liar who sold fake masks in his previous life. Suzhizan did not reply, nor did he ask Yun Ning what he meant by trying it out. Everyone knew very well, which boy doesn't have feelings for him? Which teenager didn't dream that he became a king-level character when he dreamed back at midnight? From then on to the pinnacle of life? Create a new aristocratic family? It's just that the cruel reality is constantly destroying them. The sky-high training costs make them prohibitive. Many families sell all their belongings for only a few million. What kind of elves can be cultivated with a few million? A high-level elf is in the sky, and it must be the kind that is weak and relatively easy to cultivate. What's more, what if you cultivated a high-level elf? One high-level elves may not be able to beat 2 intermediate-level elves, and the crowd tactics are effective everywhere. Unless the strength gap is too large, for example, the Heavenly King level and the Elite level have crossed a large realm. Even so, it is only the Heavenly King level that kills the Elite level, but the Elite level elves can still cause a certain amount of damage to the Heavenly King level. If you really use the oil-filling tactics, the King level will also be killed by the Elite level elves. To cultivate a group of elite-level elves with the resources of cultivating a king-level elves, the elite-level elves that are cultivated will definitely be enough to drown the heavenly-level elves. This is also the reason why many emerging families don't even deliberately pursue the heavenly king-level powerhouse, because it is more cost-effective to have the resources to cultivate a group of elite-level trainers. Heavenly king-level elves exist more as a strategic deterrent. First, they can slash and capture flags. Second, during team battles, heavenly king-level elves are not threatened by human sea tactics and can output as much as they like. Therefore, the aristocratic families in the alliance still have a relatively loose policy towards commoners, because they know that there is only one way for commoners to rise, and that is to make their family into the ranks of wealthy families through the efforts of several generations. It is useless to have a genius. This is not a fantasy novel. A saint-level powerhouse can sweep the existence of the world below the saint level. You, a genius who hasn't been born for thousands of years, can't stand the crowd tactics of the giants. Take the Liu family as an example. Even if your talent is unparalleled, what if you reach the heavenly king level at a young age? Can you withstand the Liu family's hundreds of Tianlong meteors stabbing the Dragon King? Even if a Thorn Dragon King can only shoot one shot, and one shot can only destroy 1/10 of your life, you still need dozens of heavenly king-level elves to let the Liu family fight. This is obviously impossible. The gap between the aristocratic family and the commoners is so big that it makes people desperate. Therefore, every year there are geniuses who join the aristocratic clan, or marry the daughters of the aristocratic clan to build a small family attached to the aristocratic clan, or marry into a wealthy family to make themselves part of a wealthy family, or even abandon their dignity and join the clan. Neither of them continued to speak, and walked forward silently with their heads lowered. "Okay, I'll be waiting for the bus here, you can go home." Suzhizan's home does not live in Zhenxing town, but in Tenglong town, a dozen kilometers away. Every time he came home from school, he would accompany Yun Ning to this main road, and then take the bus from Zhenxing town to Tenglong town to go home, but this might be the last time he went this way. "Okay, then I'll go home and contact me by phone." Yun Ning is not pretentious. After all, he is a modern person with developed transportation. If you really have something to meet, it only takes a few minutes drive. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com is not parting from life and death. Didn't you keep in touch with each other often after you went to college in your previous life? I hope you can understand the real reason why I let you choose Ibrahimovic. Yun Ning thought in his heart, there is still a dream, otherwise, what is the difference between him and the Carp King? No, the Carp King at least has the dream of evolving into a tyrannical carp dragon. The reason you asked me to choose Ibrahimovic was not just what you said, right? Suzhizan's voice came from behind. A smile crept up the corner of Yun Ning's mouth, raised his left hand and waved, "Don't guess what Dad is thinking. Depend on." After saying goodbye to Suzhizan, Yun Ning returned to his home comfortably, took out the key in his pocket, inserted the key into the keyhole with a trembling right hand, and twisted it lightly. The door opened. Yun Ning breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that these basic things had not changed much compared to the previous life. He kicked each other with his feet, took off his shoes swiftly, and walked into his rental house. Yes, a rental house. This house is not actually owned by Yun Ning's family, but rented. Yun Ning's hometown is actually in the countryside. Father Yun rented such a house in the town for the convenience of Yun Ning's school. However, in Yun Ning's memory, the Yun family will return the house at the end of this year and move back to the countryside, because Yun Ning in the previous life lived in the school after he went to college, so the task of this rental house has been completed. My parents haven't gotten off work yet. The graduation ceremony was held in the morning. Looking at the time, it's only about 10 o'clock, and it's more than an hour before my parents go home for dinner. Yun Ning opened the door of the kitchen, washed the rice and put it in the rice cooker to cook. Generally speaking, parents are busy at work, and no one cooks at home for lunch, so they all come back from fast food restaurants to eat. Only for dinner parents will go home from the vegetable market to buy food and make it by themselves. This is Dad's elf. Yun Ning greeted the creature in front of him whose height was not even his waist, but a storm surged in his heart. Elf, arm strength age, 8 years old. Gender, male level, level 12, elementary, character, Lottie trait, perseverance skills, stare, kick, chi gather, hand knife alternate skills, none gold finger. This was Yun Ning's first reaction. A data frame that should not exist appeared in Yun Ning's field of vision. The format and content of the data frame are very similar to the Pokémon games played in the previous life. Defective product. This was Yun Ning's second reaction. Although compared with the game information bar in the previous life, the data frame has more information on age and backup skills, but also does not display the effort value and individual value. The individual value must exist. After all, it is impossible for all individuals of the same kind of elves to have the same talent. If the individual value cannot be displayed, then the value of the golden finger will be greatly reduced. Recalling a certain online battle game that I played in my previous life, in PvP, either the same elves were always slower than their opponents, or they were killed by a single skill. The reason is that the opponent's elves are fighting with full individuals, while Yun Ning can only use some elves with correct character traits and relatively good individual values to fight due to lack of time and energy. How important is individual value? To put it simply, if an elf with full stats and an elf with 0 stats are of the same race, then their races are equivalent to a difference of 15.5 points in the corresponding ability. What concept? As we all know, elves have a total of 6 ability points. If the individual value of the 6 abilities of an elf is 0, then compared with all elves with full individuals, it is directly equivalent to a full 93 racial points less. You are a 6-age fast dragon, and your actual ability value is on the same level as a genius flame lion. In reality, elves with 6 eggs are rare after all, so let's take the middle value. Most of the elves have an individual value of around 15. Compared with the elves with full individuals, the actual ability value is also 48 points less than the racial value. It is roughly the difference between Kuai Long and Mrs. Huaji. In reality, people have actually discovered the existence of individual values. After all, there are often large gaps in the strength of the same elves of the same level. But at present, human beings are still unable to identify the exact individual value of an elf, and can only judge the approximate individual value of an elf based on experience, and give vague classifications such as low, ordinary, excellent. Effort value is relatively easy to control. In the game, effort value is obtained by killing monsters. Of course, it is impossible in reality. You can't go out with one arm and step on a unicorn, and your speed and effort value will increase. Already? Are you going faster? What is the logic? As far as Yun Ning has learned about the world, the power of elves is actually similar to that of human beings. It is nothing more than eating, practicing, and upgrading by converting the energy they consume into their own strength. In a previous life, there was a saying that the poor are rich in martial arts. Without the intake of high-energy food, do you practice a try? I'm afraid that it won't take a few minutes to make people useless. A person who weighs less than 100 pounds, also wants to build a whole body of muscle? I'm afraid that it's not enough to concentrate all the flesh in your body to develop 6-PACKABS. Then the improvement of the effort value is relatively easy to understand. It is nothing more than focusing on a certain direction when digesting the energy intake. After all, as long as you can effectively digest and absorb the ingested energy, your level can be improved. Then in the process of digestion and absorption, which method you use to practice a certain ability, then your ability will make great progress. Just like an athlete in a previous life. The same world-class athletes, the same strict and scientific energy intake. Some athletes practice running, then they can run fast, and some athletes practice weightlifting, then their hand strength is strong. Although everyone is human and belongs to the same race according to the standards of the elf world, the racial value is the same, but because the direction of effort is different, the fields of expertise are different. As for an athlete who practices running, his weightlifting ability is still much stronger than that of ordinary people. This is the so-called level suppression. Just what does this spare skill mean? Shi Li felt that the little master in front of him was a little strange. It was not the first day that everyone knew each other, so was it necessary to stare at him like this? Could it be that you have mud on your face? Wrist-arm force touched his face with his hand, but found nothing. The cry of the wrist force pulled Yun Ning back to reality from his thoughts, and found that his legs were a little sore. The height of the wrist strength is only 0.8 meters. When Yun Ning was observing the information about the wrist strength, he was squatting, and his feet could not stand for a long time. It's time to eat. Mom's voice sounded from the kitchen, exactly the same as in the previous life. If it wasn't for the arm strength in front of him telling him that he was in a fantasy world, Yun Ning almost thought he was still in the world of his previous life. Shaking her numb feet, she walked into the kitchen where she had eaten for 3 years. There is a dining table on one side of the kitchen. In the previous life, the dining table was against the wall on one side, because at that time, there were only 3 people in Yuning's family, so there was no need for 4 seats. However, the dining table in this life is not against the wall, and there is a chair that is higher than other positions on the side of the wall. This is probably the seat of arm strength. After all, wrist strength is short legs, and if the chair is not raised, it cannot reach the dishes on the table. Mom still gave everyone a meal like in the previous life, including a bowl of arm strength. However, the rice in the wrist strength bowl is obviously much more than Yuning's. Although Yun Ning is in the developmental stage, it is the time to grow his body, but after all he does not need to do physical work, so the demand for food is not very large, but wrist strength, because he has to work for Father Yun, so the energy requirements are also higher. The food at home is as simple as in the previous life, but it is not unaffordable. After all, the price of food for ordinary human beings is actually not expensive. It's just that the way of life for ordinary people is not much different from that of humans in previous lives. For ordinary families, elves are just like pets. For most people, reading, buying a house, and getting married are the major events in life. Parents should start saving money early to plan for Yuning's future. Over the years, for Yuning to go to school, she has to move every few years. Micah has long wanted to buy a house of her own in the town. Thinking of this, Yun Ning couldn't help feeling a little ashamed. His parents worked so hard for his studies, but his grades were still not very good. He was only admitted to the worst high school in this county in the middle school entrance examination. In the college entrance examination, the score was not high, and it happened to be stuck on the boundary between the second and third books. For the development of Yuning, the parents of the previous life gritted their teeth and let Yuning go to the provincial capital to read the third book, which cost more than 10,000 yuan in 4 years. Luckily, the Yun family is from Jianzhong province. Although the family conditions are not a big deal in the local area, they can barely afford a 3-year-old student to finish university. I heard that some families in some western provinces sold their old houses in order to provide 3 books for their college students. Perhaps, in this life, I should go to a lesser city to read 2 books. Big cities mean big opportunities, but small cities also mean less competition. The so-called I would rather be a chicken head than a phoenix tail. What's more, according to the routine of fantasy novels, the protagonist can only get adventures by going to inaccessible places, and always stay in the crowd. Did you get your diploma? Father Yun's voice came from his ear. Well, it's down. Yun Ning replied while eating. What kind of elves are you going to raise? This is the question of Micah. I think the wrist strength is good, and I can help you with some work, you say, wrist strength. Micah said, while holding a large piece of meat for the wrist strength. Find a mother's wrist strength, and find a companion for our family's wrist strength. Wrist Whipley happily ate the meat sandwiched by Micah, making a crunching sound in his mouth. While expressing gratitude to Micah, I don't know whether I am thanking Micah for filling it with meat or thanking Micah for introducing objects to it. I haven't made up my mind yet. Yun Ning didn't dare to look up at his parents. However, Yun Ning could still feel the chopsticks in his father's hand paws. If you don't think about it slowly. Anyway, this summer vacation is still long. There was a hint of comfort in her mother's words, and she didn't know who she was comforting. There was no sound in the kitchen for a while, only the thumping of the chopsticks and the bowl rang out from time to time. The construction site is still recruiting workers, moving bricks by piece, and if you do a good job, you can earn about 200,300 a day. Father Yun is a construction worker on the construction site. Although he has no superb skills, it is still a good idea to build houses for people in the town of Zhenxing Town. Enough, wrist strength is usually to fight Yun Fu. Anyway, you don't have anything to do during the summer vacation, so just go to the construction site to experience life, just to earn more living expenses for the university. Well, Yun Ning didn't ask any other questions. In my previous life, I spent my high school summer vacation at home. At that time, my family bought a computer for myself. Yun Ning, who owned a computer for the first time, couldn't even think of going out to work. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. After a brief conversation, the kitchen was quiet again. Only the sound of eating with arm strength is getting louder. I'm full. Yun Ning wiped the grease from the corner of his mouth, got up and left the kitchen. According to the family's habit, whoever eats the slowest clears the table. Today, the speed of my parents' eating has slowed down significantly. But Yun Ning didn't notice this, and now he was going back to his room to think about his initial elf. Xiaoning is only 18 years old, can you afford to work on the construction site? Michael looked at Father Yun with some resentment. When Yun Ning went out, his parents were eating as usual, and Micah asked when Yun Ning closed the door of the room. You're an adult after you get your diploma, how can you experience the hardships of life if you don't make money? Father Yun didn't stop with his chopsticks, only by experiencing what life is, can you make the right choice in life. The family's money is only enough for him to study, and Xianing's grades are not very good. In case he fails to pass the second exam, we will use that part of the deposit for him to read 3. It is our responsibility as parents to provide him with education and help him buy a house and get married. If he wants to pursue his dream, he needs to work hard. Our family is not a big family, so don't leave him a pile after I retire. Debt is what we should do. Don't be like the old Li family in the east of the village, who bought a house of 1 million yuan. Lao Li paid 300,000 down, and let his son pay the mortgage for the rest. His son will be almost 60 years old when he pays off the money. Father Yun took a large piece of meat and bit it hard. After chewing a few bites, he said, this part of the money cannot be moved. If he wants to pursue his dream, he will make money himself. If he fails, he will not end up on the streets in the future. There isn't even a place to stay. Yun Ning couldn't wait to find out all the textbooks he had read since elementary school, and one of them was spread out on the floor. The so-called common sense knowledge acquired by communicating with others is definitely not the basic knowledge of this world. Just like the online discussions in previous lives, no one will talk about 1 + 1 being equal to a few. The so-called common sense in people's mouths is actually based on what everyone has recognized. If you can't reach a consensus on even the most basic mathematical formula, then you can't chat normally. As a traveler, Yun Ning doesn't know anything about the foundation of this world. Especially knowledge about the level of elves' development. So now he has to make up for it. Elementary school textbooks are not well preserved anymore. Yun Ning's family did not have the habit of selling books, but children must not cherish books, so it was normal for elementary school textbooks to be tattered. After spending nearly an hour flipping through all his textbooks, Yun Ning had a doubt in his heart: could it be that people in this world are mentally retarded? It doesn't matter if you studied the racial stats of elves in your elementary school textbooks, why did you still study racial stats of elves in high school? The difference is only the racial value of learning green caterpillars in elementary school, and the racial value of learning the Thorn Dragon King in high school. With all due respect, there are a total of hundreds of elves. As long as you memorize them carefully, I am afraid that it will not be used for a year, and it will only take a few months to memorize them thoroughly. And the evolution of elves, can this also exist as a separate course? When you open the previous test paper that was in the textbook, you only got 63 points in the test. On the contrary, it is similar to the living habits of elves, the characteristics of the appearance of elves, the individual differences between males and females, etc. In Yuning's opinion, courses that are more terrifying than the political history of the previous life are taught very quickly, and each semester is a thick book. It seems that most students, including myself, rely on this to draw points. From Yun Ning's impression, subjects related to elves' battles are extremely difficult, and most people fail to pass, while subjects unrelated to elves' battles are extremely simple, and most people rely on this score to ensure their bottom line. In this situation, Yun Ning suddenly recalled a famous theory from his previous life. World Axis Theory. According to the World Axis Theory, each world has its own axis of rotation, and it will be extremely difficult for people in this world to explore and understand this axis. And things outside this axis have no such restriction. The most typical example is the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! The world is so technologically advanced that humans can even travel in space easily, but when it comes to things related to playing cards, it will develop extremely slowly. In the past life, a random novice traveled through the past, just talking about the tactics and the composition of the deck. I am afraid that it is not possible to hang the Dual King to fight. Of course, the premise is that the Dual King does not print cards on the spot. The same is true of the world including Yun Ning's previous life. In the past life, there were many people who guessed that the main axis of the earth was mathematics, which is why mathematics was so difficult to learn. Yun Ning's mathematics level in the previous life was very poor, and he has been hovering around the pass line. On the contrary, in the science subjects such as physical chemistry, Yun Ning's grades are not bad at all. In the previous life, he graduated from high school with the second best science and comprehensive score in the college entrance examination. Although this high school is just the worst high school in the county. So in a previous life, someone joked on the internet, everyone will betray you, only mathematics can't, and no. Another core theorem of the world axis theory is that everything that assists the world axis will develop very fast. Just like Yu-Gi-Oh! When people were still using mobile phones, a virtual video device that could display game cards was invented. You know, all the people on Earth in the previous life have used 5G mobile phones, and these things can only be an illusion. The same is true of the world Yun Ning is currently in. It is extremely difficult to learn the knowledge of elves fighting, but the technology of poke to assist the development of elves has developed very rapidly, and even the technology of teleporting poke has been invented. You know, this is space transmission technology. Is there any proper black technology? Perhaps, this is my real golden finger. After understanding the basic setting of this world, Yun Ning began to think about the most suitable initial elves. My family's family background is not very good, so elves who need evolution stones are absolutely not to be chosen. After all, evolution stones are only to lure elves to evolve and stimulate their bloodlines. And if the elves want to upgrade, the energy required is no different from the elves that upgrade and evolve. That is to say, the elves that need evolution stones naturally need to spend one more evolution stone than ordinary elves. In addition, short-lived elves cannot be selected. Just like Suzhizan said, he worked hard to cultivate a high-level sea thorn dragon, but he died when he was only 28 years old. The short teenage lifespan is only afraid of earning money back. The cost of time is not enough. Also, elves with too high evolution levels cannot be selected. Although elves such as stinky mud and gas bombs are bad streets, they do not need evolution stones to evolve, and their race values after evolution are not low, but their evolution levels are really too high. One is 35, one is 38, at least the strength of the advanced midrange or above can evolve. Before evolution, their combat effectiveness was really worrying. The most ideal choice is the elves with low evolution level and powerful after evolution. You can grow and make money. It evolves once at the 10th level, and once again at the 30 or so level. There are quite a few elves that meet this requirement, but most of them have a unified name, Eusangia. The so-called Eusangia are the royal initial elves of the direct descendants of the Alliance. The direct descendants of the Alliance, in addition to those big families who control the Alliance, are the descendants of those who have made outstanding contributions to the Alliance. For example, if a person dies in a public service while suppressing the elf riot, he will be posthumously named a martyr, and his descendants will also be included in the Alliance's direct line. The Alliance also relies on this to firmly control the loyalty of the trainers. When faced with the test of life and death, the first thing they thought of was not running away, but the hardships they had used to grow into a senior trainer with a small rata and a green caterpillar. Do you want your children to use green caterpillars to compete with their peers like yourself, or to use the royal 3 family to hang and beat most people, and then embark on the road of prosperity and even create a brand new family? This choice is not difficult to make. After the Great Uprising that year, the alliances of various countries brought together all the 3 imperial families in their own countries and managed them in a closed manner. Only the high-level officials of the alliance know the breeding locations of the 3 imperial families in their own country, and even the noble families in the alliance have no way of knowing. The Eusangia is an important pillar of the alliance's existence. There was once a family who wanted to encroach on the control of Yuzan, but they were attacked by a group. What the big family needs is an alliance that can handle their problems, not a useless puppet. Just like a capitalist country, although the capitalists control the country's economy, they will not meddle in the country's taxation. After all, if something really happens, the country needs to come out and take the blame. The elves living in East Asia in this life are mainly in the Kanto area in the previous life. Not exactly coincident, of course, but roughly the same. Therefore, China's Elves Alliance has a total of 6 kinds of imperial 3 families in the Guandu area. It is precisely because of this that the status of Huaxia's Elf Alliance in the world is also similar to that of the Guandu area in the previous life, ranking first in the world. Yun Ning was born in Huaxia, so it can be said that he was assigned a monster room. The Yuzan family doesn't need to think about it. The Yuning family is a family with 8 generations of farmers, so it is impossible to obtain it. But strangely, there was an elf that Yun Ning liked to use in his previous life, but it was not controlled. That is the Baa sheep. Baa Li Yang has all the characteristics of Eusangia. The evolution level is low, 1 stage of evolution at level 15, and 2 stages of evolution at level 30. This evolution level is even lower than most of the 3 imperial families. After evolution, the strength is strong. Although the race value of the electric dragon is not comparable to the 525,535 of the Eusangia, it still has a full 510 points, breaking the 500 mark, and it can be said that it is an echelon. The most important thing is that the electric dragon can super-evolve. And after super-evolution, it is a dragon-type elves. Have a long life. Of course, the shortcomings of Baa Li Yang are also obvious: relatively lack of skills, lack of powerful output skills in the early stage. The most powerful skill of this department is the thunder hit rate is worrying, and the discharge power with a high hit rate is not strong. The skills that can be learned are severely repetitive and so on. But none of this is a problem for Yun Ning. In the previous life, Yun Ning, as a PvP battle enthusiast who did not have the time and energy to obtain full personal value, he could only develop some interesting dirty routines to enhance his game experience. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a psychopath to be abused every day? Yunning is very clear that the core skill of the electric dragon is cotton defense. Yes, it is this magical skill that can raise one's physical defense by 3 stages. In the previous life, Yunning was very puzzled, why there is such a perverted skill. But after checking the picture book, Yunning understood that most of the elves who can learn this skill are not suitable for the field. The Kixie blue bird with the highest racial value except the electric dragon is restrained by 4 times the ice element, even if it is used the effect of this skill is also extremely poor. Although the racial value distribution of the explosive-headed buffalo is good, its characteristics and skills destined it to be more suitable as a sharp knife with crazy output to break through the enemy's defense, rather than a mainstay who is immobile against stormy waves. But the electric dragon is different. The electric dragon is a pure electric spirit, and it only has a weak point of the ground system. The strongest special attack skill of the ground system is the power of the earth, but there are not many elves equipped with this skill. Most elves will be equipped with an earthquake to increase their attack surface, but earthquakes are a physical attack skill, which can just be taken down by cotton defense. At the same time, the physical defense racial value of the electric dragon is not low. The physical defense racial value of 85, coupled with the health racial value of 90, can already be regarded as excellent. A quarter blood loss. In the previous life, when he encountered the Sandstorm team, the opposite Banjira saw that his opponent was the electric dragon, and thought that Yunning would definitely change to the elf, so he took the opportunity to strengthen the dragon dance, but he did not expect that the electric dragon turned out to be cotton defense. In the second round, it was found that something was wrong and he used Quake, which only dealt less than one-third of the damage. After the second cotton defense of the electric dragon, Banjira's earthquake could no longer shake the electric dragon's health bar. Unwilling, he could only continue to strengthen the dragon dance. Unexpectedly, the electric dragon would directly beat Banjira to stubborn blood with 1 chi and bomb, so he could only hurriedly replace him. Although Kahi bullets can deal 4 times the damage to Banjira, firstly, in the case of sandstorms, the special defense bonus of rock-type elves is 50%, and secondly, the electric dragon is the main attack of physical defense and blood volume, and its output ability is completely dependent on the race value is hanging, so he can't lose his opponent Banjira in seconds. This is also the biggest regret of Yunning's previous life. The key electric dragon can also learn another station level, Healing Bell. In Yunning's previous life, he often encountered opponents who also used Shaoxiang's spirit to use the poison to force the electric dragon to end. At this time, the Healing Bell would be able to show his power. Remove the abnormal state and allow yourself to stand on the field for a longer time. Even outside of the battle, the Healing Bell can effectively heal other spirits in the team. You must know that reality is not a game. In reality, the elves are dead when they die. The trainer's wild adventure ended up running out of medicines and was unable to return to the town in time, leading to cases of his own elves being poisoned to death from time to time. In addition to the cotton defense and healing bells, the characteristics of the electric dragon and the discharge of its own skills can also be said to exist specifically to make the electric dragon a shield. The characteristic of the electric dragon is static electricity, and its effect is that when receiving a contact attack, there is a 30% chance to paralyze the opponent. You must know that most of the physical attack skills require contact with the opponent, and there are not many physical attack skills that can attack from a distance like Earthquake. That is to say, the electric dragon can block a lot of physical attackers by relying on this feature alone, causing the opponent to look ahead and not dare to attack. There is also the electric dragon's own skill discharge, which is a skill that electric dragon can learn by leveling up. The power of 80 is not very strong, but it is enough. Although the strength of the attack is not as good as 100,000 volts, it is worse than the range of output, and it has an excellent output effect in team battles. Simultaneous discharge has a 30% chance to paralyze the opponent, which is what makes this skill really disgusting. When a physical attacker encounters an electric dragon, it is not either to advance, nor to retreat. Attacks may trigger static electricity, and guerrilla harassment will be attacked by area-based skill discharges, which will still trigger paralysis effects. Yes, electric discharge, cotton defense, healing bells, and Kihi bomb. This is the electric dragon configuration of Yun Ning's previous life, and then bring a leftover meal, the standard nightmare of a physical attacker. Among these 4 core skills, electric discharge and cotton defense, electric dragon can be obtained through upgrading. Although the healing bell is valuable, electric dragon can also be obtained through genetics. Only Kihi bullets need to be purchased by Yuning. However, Yuning has just started, and Kihi bomb will be considered after Baa Liang successfully evolves into an electric dragon. It is enough to have these 3 core skills in the early stage. East Asia has the most fertile grassland in the world, the Monan Prairie. Legend has it that during the kingdom period, this was the king's royal horse farm, and the small fire horses ridden by the kingdom's army were all raised here. After thousands of years of development, many families have also been born on the Monan grassland. Although no family can be compared with the aristocratic family like the Liu family, it is better than the number. These clans on the grassland usually fight openly and secretly with each other and are not united, but once they encounter the invasion of foreign forces, they can quickly form a group to fight against the enemy. This is also the reason why, although there is no super family on the grassland, it has not been invaded by other forces. According to the tradition on the grasslands, all the clans together recommend a strongest clan to be the arbiter to solve the problem of family A running to the grassland of family B to grab grass and eat. This generation's step leader is the Chiat family. It is said that the Chiat family has a heavenly king-level electric dragon, and it is an electric dragon that has successfully super-evolved. The so-called successful super-evolution refers to permanently maintaining the evolved form without the aid of super-evolution stones. Ordinary elves can live for about 100 years after super-evolution. For example, the giant needle bee has only a short lifespan of 2 years under normal circumstances, but once it succeeds in super-evolution, it can be consecrated in one step and expand its lifespan to 50 times its original life. For the dragon-type elves that have long lifespans, once they successfully super-evolve, their lifespans can reach at least 300 years, and usually they can live to about 500 years old. The electric dragon of the Chiat family is only 200 years old this year, and has been able to shelter the Chiat family for nearly 300 years. Every family on the grassland keeps a large number of Baa Li sheep, because the wool of Baa Li sheep is an excellent textile raw material. Clothes woven from the wool of the Baa Li sheep have a certain ability to resist electric shock. The stronger the strength of the Baa Li sheep, the stronger the ability of the wool to resist electricity. The protective clothing worn by full-time electricians is custom-made from the Monan grassland. Yuning searched the internet for the price of the Baa Li sheep. As a large-scale elves, the price of the Baa Li sheep is not expensive at all. It is not much different from the sheep in the previous life. You can buy one for a few hundred yuan. But these Baa Li sheep, which can be bought for a few $100s, are all specially used for scouring wool. From birth to death, it is completely an assembly line operation, and it is not suitable as a battle elves at all. A lot of Baa Li sheep are still in the novice stage below level 10 until they die. The Baa Li sheep, which is really suitable as a battle spirit, is sold separately. After all, elves are creatures, and they will reproduce, so the price of elves is similar to that of cats and dogs in previous lives. The Baa Li sheep on the grassland will give birth to a large number of lambs every year. For the family who breed the Baa Li sheep, it is more cost-effective to sell it at one time than to work hard to herd the sheep. If there is trading, there will be a market, and if there is a market, there will be packaging. Under the long-term market economy, the families on the grassland have also figured out the way to increase the price of elves, that is, to divide the elves into 3, 6, and 9 grades through genetic skills. Baa Li sheep only bangs and howls. Yun Ning's goal is the Baa Li sheep who can heal the bell. The Baa Li sheep can inherit the healing bell by crossing with Xiang Gui Miao. Although Xiong Gui Miao is not a native elves of the Celestial Dynasty, after discovering that Xiong Gui Miao and Baa Li sheep can inherit the healing bell, various families on the grassland have purchased a batch of male Xiong Gui Miao to come back. When cultivated to the peak of advanced level, Xiong Gui Miao can learn to heal the bell. Compared with the big milk tank that needs to be at the peak of the elite level to learn to heal the bell, the cost of cultivating Xiong Gui Miao is undoubtedly lower. After all, the big milk tank can only learn to heal the bell when it reaches the peak of the elite level. However, this is not the real reason why the Prairie family gave up the big milk tank. The main reason is that the big milk tank has only females and cannot give birth to the little Baali sheep. As long as there is a Baali sheep that can heal bells, there is no need to introduce Xiong Gui Miao, because the skills have been passed down. For the grassland family, this is an investment that will benefit a lifetime. You must know that acquiring skills through genetics is the most economical way. Although humans have discovered that skills can be taught through skill machines, it is said that the production cost of skill machines is extremely high, and it is also extremely difficult to learn. It is simply not comparable to the way of heredity, which is directly engraved into the blood. The way of selling elves is a bit similar to the self-selected fast food in the previous life. Each skill is clearly marked with a price of 3,000 for the healing bell and 2,000 for the discharge. As long as you have the money, you can even buy a super Baa sheep that has inherited more than a dozen skills. I don't know if there is any spot on their pasture. If not, will they let the elite electric dragon in their hands give birth to one on the spot? Compared with the skills, the host Baal sheep can be regarded as a row head. As long as you buy a Baal sheep with a skill of your own choice, the price of the Baal sheep itself will be waived. If you buy a Baali sheep that can heal bells, you only need to pay 3,000 skill costs, and the hundreds of dollars will be waived. It gives the impression that the elves are not as valuable as the skills. In fact, the same is true. After all, skills are a one-shot deal, and the price can be estimated. The elves themselves are a bottomless pit that burns money. It's pointless to buy elves and not cultivate them. Yun Ning only had the dozens of pocket money he usually saved. It's not enough to buy even a bleat for wool. At lunch, he understood what his father said. After all, he was reborn through time travel, not a real 18-year-old boy. Parents actually hope that they can live their lives in peace and quiet, and not to pursue that vague future. But they couldn't bear to break their son's dream, so they could only hope that Yun Ning would retreat. Every year, countless families go bankrupt because of training a trainer. How many can really succeed? In the eyes of my parents, the few mid-level league trainers who hold real power in the town are already their gods. It takes at least a few 100,000 to cultivate an intermediate elf. However, it does not mean that you can be regarded as an intermediate trainer by owning an intermediate elf. The trainers of the General Alliance will train 6 elves, which is the maximum number of elves that ordinary people can take into account. If you only have 2 or less elves to enter the intermediate level, then you can only be called quasi-intermediate. Only if you have 3 or more intermediate Pokémon, you will be called an intermediate trainer. The same is true for quasi-kings and quasi-elites. 3 middle-level elves mean a cost of more than 1 million, and this is still the cost if you have the teacher's guidance to avoid detours. If you are a commoner without a teacher to teach you, and you have to explore and test everything by yourself, the cost of cultivating elves will be several times higher. At the same time, being able to stand out among the many alliance trainers to become a frontier official, even if it's just a small town manager who controls the fate of tens of thousands of people, they must have paid a huge price. Don't you see that many alliance trainers become cannon fodder and sacrifice every year? It is said that several middle-level trainers in Zhenxing town are from families. Among them, there are members of the big family who are ineffective, and they were thrown into the town by the family and left to fend for themselves. There are also talented children of the Xingxing family. He can grow. It can also be seen from here that the strength gap between the big and small families in the alliance, what the small family strives to pursue, may be just what the big family casually gives up. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. The afternoon time passed quietly in Yun Ning's thoughts. When Yun Ning looked up and looked out the window, he found that the sky had been dyed red by the setting sun. It's broken, the rice hasn't been cooked yet. Yun Ning quickly ran to the kitchen and skillfully washed the rice and put it into the pot. When Father Yun came back, he wore a pair of gloves and threw them on Yun Ning's bed, saying, "This is for you to move bricks at the construction site tomorrow. Try it yourself." After speaking, he turned and went into the kitchen to prepare tonight's dishes. Yun Ning opened the package and tried it on. The size was just right, but it was a little hot in the summer, and it was hot to the touch. During dinner, my parents never mentioned the topic of Yuning's original elves again. After dinner, Micah turned Yuning's school uniforms out of the closet. After all, you can't wear school uniforms after you go to college. If you go out to move bricks tomorrow, you will definitely wear your clothes. The last residual heat. Just walking out of the intense study life in high school, Yun Ning has not yet developed the habit of sleeping in, and woke up at 6 a.m. the next morning. Unlike my previous life, I couldn't get up before 8 o'clock after going through college life. After eating a simple breakfast made of mica, I followed my father to the construction site. Before leaving, Micah rambled about, and then let Yuning be careful, he would rather move less than let himself be tired, and then let Father Yun remember to say hello to the foreman, arrange easier work for Yuning, and finally even ask the wrist to take care of him. Yuning. This made Father Yun impatient for a while. I went to the construction site to do the work of moving bricks. How can I let the foreman arrange easy work? A teenage boy, if I'm really tired, just go home and sleep for a night. Ignoring Micah's ugly face, she took Yun Ning out of the house. Arm and Micah waved and followed. Yun Ning found that he was not suitable for moving bricks, to be precise, not suitable for physical work. Although Yun Ning's family conditions were not very good, it was not bad enough to let Yun Ning help out when he was a child. After all, it is a modern society, and it is not like going to the fields to do farm work at a young age like in ancient times. Yun Ning's grades are not very good, or Yun Ning's grades have nothing to do with the word good. When I was in junior high school, my grades were always in the middle of the class, and I was also admitted to the worst high school in the county. Yun Ning felt that he was not material for reading, but his parents didn't think so. The ancestors of the Yun family have been farmers for 8 generations and have no gene for reading. Not only the Yun family, but other families in the village are similar. Fortunately, Micah's IQ is good, and in elementary school, she often won the award of 3 good students. However, Micah's family is poorer and has many brothers. Yuning's grandmother prefers sons to daughters and feels that it is useless for girls to study, so Micah's primary school is not completed. Being too low literate is a pain for my parents for a lifetime. When I enter the city, I can only do some physical work. They worked hard all day long, they didn't want Yun Ning to live the same life as themselves. Yun Ning was not ranked in the town, but he was still a child from someone else's family when he took it back to the village. During the New Year's party, Yun's father always asked his cousin Yun Ning how his grades were, and looked at his relatives with shame. After changing the subject, Father Yun laughed and drank the wine in the glass in one gulp, talking about eating vegetables. Yun Ning was already tired of watching this kind of scene, but Father Yun never seemed to get tired of it. Father Yun's sense of superiority will probably last for another 4 years. Yun Ning, who became a technician after graduating from college, earned only about 4,000 yuan a month. He couldn't compare with his cousins who graduated from junior high school and became technicians. The money they got a month could support 2 Yunings. A drop of sweat dripped, pulling Yun Ning back from the memories of his previous life. The bright sunlight shone on the ground, and Yun Ning, who was stabbed by the reflection, couldn't keep his eyes open. The whole body is soaked with sweat, which is a sign of lack of exercise. I haven't moved a few bricks in the morning, and my sweat is much more than the old brick mover around me. She took off her gloves and took out her mobile phone from her pocket. It was only early 10 o'clock, but her stomach was already empty. The soreness in his arms, the hunger in his stomach, and the glasses that slipped off from time to time were all torturing Yun Ning's nerves. The clothes were wet with sweat and firmly adhered to Yun Ning's skin. The dust on the construction site was flying. The school uniforms that originally represented youth and intellectuality were no longer what they were. Can't wait for a breath of wind. A brick on the construction site costs 3 cents. A long-term brick worker can move about 10,000 bricks a day, which means that they can get 300 yuan a day. If they work every day, their monthly income is theoretically around 9,000 yuan. Father Yun is the teacher head who does mud and water on the construction site. With 350 yuan a day, the work is relatively easy. I don't need to think about 10,000 bricks a day. Yun Ning felt that it would be good for him to be able to move 3,000 bricks today. When he first came here, he was very excited. By 10 o'clock, Yun Ning had moved less than 1,000 yuan for a full 3 hours. Father Yun should have said hello. Yun Ning could feel it. Anyone who has moved bricks knows that lifting the bricks from the ground is the most tiring, because they have to bend over and get up again. Many brick movers have problems with their arms rather than their waists when they are old. The bricks at the starting point were just piled up there, and Yun Ning took the highest brick in the pile every time, because this height didn't need to bend over. Yun Ning felt that he was very witty and worthy of being a literate prospective college student in the new era. However, after several trips, he found that the low wall he left behind was always cleaned up immediately, and Yun Ning gradually understood that it was not that other people were stupid, but that there were rules in the construction site. Everyone abides by this rule, but seeing that Yun Ning is still young, everyone let him. Yun Ning felt a little ashamed, not only because of his actions, but also because of his thoughts just now. His face was hot, and he didn't know if it was red. The most difficult hour has finally passed, and 11 o'clock is the lunch time on the construction site. I didn't go home for lunch today. Father Yun used to go home so that Yun Ning would have something to eat. Since Yun Ning is with his father today, there is no need to go home. I followed my father into a restaurant near the construction site. There is no air conditioner in the restaurant, only a few electric fans hanging on the wall shaking their heads left and right. It is very noisy inside, making people feel more stuffy and irritable. Father Yun left the restaurant after cooking a few dishes. This was Yun Ning's request. Yun Ning always felt that it was unsanitary to sit in a restaurant and eat. The stools of the restaurant were covered with a layer of black stuff, maybe it was dust from the construction site? The building on the site has already built 3 floors, and it is said that this is the new hospital in the town. Father Yun brought Yun Ning to the 2nd floor of the building and sat on the ground to prepare for dinner. There are not a few people like Yun Ning. Many teacher heads who build houses like to eat like this. Old Yun, is this your son? A middle-aged man in grey short sleeves asked Father Yun, and there was an advertisement for a certain hospital on his clothes. How old are you? 18, just graduated from high school. Isn't this here to experience life? Earn some college living expenses for yourself. Father Yun replied quickly, for fear that people around him would think that his son came to work on the construction site because he couldn't read. The words also pointed out that his son has a university to read and has a bright future. Oh, then your son is very sensible. The middle-aged man praised, my daughter graduated last year and can't suffer much. She can only work as a salesperson in a shopping mall to earn college living expenses. Although he said his own the daughter is not good, but the pride on her face cannot be concealed. Other people also participated in the chat. One would say that your son is sensible, and another that his daughter is filial. For a while, it became a large-scale commercial exchange scene. What kind of elves are you going to raise? This question was asked to Yun Ning. By Li Yang. Yun Ning took a sip of beer and a bite of vegetables. Drinking a bottle of beer after doing physical work on the construction site couldn't be more beautiful. Oh, oh, Baa Liang is good. The other party obviously didn't remember what kind of elf Baa Liang was for a while. In his opinion, elves like arm strength who can help him are the king. Bai Li sheep is good, I heard that it is very profitable to breed Bai Li sheep now. Another middle-aged uncle interjected. In his opinion, Yun Ning may be preparing to apply for Bai Li sheep breeding, so he chose Bai Li sheep. Sheep as their initial sprite. Although the alliance stipulates that only people who have obtained a high school diploma at the age of 18 can have their own elves, but this does not mean that all qualified people will raise elves of their own. Just like in previous lives, in theory, everyone pets can be kept, but there are still very few people who actually keep pets. The proportion of elves in this world is much higher than the proportion of pets in previous lives, but there are still many people who do not keep their own elves. For example, Yun Ning's family only has the arm strength of Father Yun, and Micah does not have a spirit of her own. The topic continued to go back to business talk. Middle-aged people have the topic of middle-aged people. Young people like Yun Ning can't get in. Learning from the experience in the morning, Yun Ning's efficiency in moving bricks in the afternoon has increased. Before the time to get off work at 6 o'clock, the number of bricks moved by Yun Ning today can break the 3,000 mark. Holding the wrinkled 90 yuan in his hand, Yun Ning felt a little emotional. This may be the hardest money he has earned in his 2 lifetimes. In his previous life, he also participated in many work-study activities after he went to college. The part-time general manager in big cities, it is easy to find some. The most tiring thing is to go to the hotel as a waiter during the National Day. Although the hotel's plate is very heavy, it is nothing compared to the bricks on the construction site. When I got home, the family had already prepared meals. Micah works as a textile worker in a textile factory in the town, and gets off work earlier than the construction site. Looking at the dust and sweat stains on Yun Ning's body, Micah's eyes felt a little distressed. He wanted to ask Yun Ning if he was tired today, but Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com said to his lips, but he quickly washed his hands and eaten. Yun Ning, who had finished dinner and took a bath, lay on his bed, calculating how long it would take before he could afford a Baa Li sheep. According to the speed at which I move bricks today, I can only earn 2,700 yuan a month. Even if I improve my efficiency later, it will take almost a month to save up to 3,000 yuan. It's a long way. Yun Ning turned over and turned on his mobile phone. Although he was very tired from moving bricks today, he was still full of energy. While watching the video of the battle between elite-level trainers on the phone, while imagining that he would become a king-level master and kill the quartet, Yun Ning could not distinguish between reality and fantasy, so he fell asleep. In the dream, Yun Ning became a peerless genius. He became the champion of the provincial college student competition in his freshman year, the national college student competition champion in his second year, and cleared 17 elf gyms across the country in his junior year, becoming the youngest gym-level trainer in history. At that time, Yun Ning, who was inflated, took defeating the king-level master as his graduation project. After graduating, Yun Ning became a high-ranking member of the alliance. Countless families begged to marry their daughters to him. In just a few decades, Yun Ning established his own family and cultivated several dragon-type elves of the heavenly king level. To ensure the safety of their own descendants for generations. A rush of alarm bells woke Yun Ning up from her sleep. She rubbed her troubled eyes and put her phone in front of her eyes. It was already 6 o'clock. It was time to get up and move the bricks. Dreams are always beautiful, but you have been lying in bed, no matter how beautiful the dream will come true one day. Dress, wash, eat, go out. The words that mother cared about did not change from yesterday. Yun Ning felt that he had become accustomed to the boring life of 2 points and 1 line. The days of repetition always pass quickly. Unconsciously, Yun Ning has been moving bricks at the construction site for 10 days. From 90 yuan on the first day to 120 yuan on the 10th day, Yuning's brick moving efficiency became higher and higher, and 1000 yuan had been accumulated in the 10th day. At this rate of improvement, within a month, Yuning would be able to save enough money to buy the initial elves. Yuning's heart is full of expectations, and it feels good to fight for a goal. After the rice at home is finished, Yuning will go to the mall to buy a bag of rice tonight. In the past, Yuning's grandfather planted the rice in Yuning's family, and he went back to his hometown to get it after eating. Zhenxing town built a new commercial center last year called Xintiandi. Although it can't be compared with the Qianda Plaza run by the Wang family, it can be regarded as a high-end commercial center for a small town. The plaza really doesn't look down on such a small market in Zhenxing town. There are a lot of people in the shopping mall. People who are off work spend a lot in the shopping mall, hoping to forget their hard work in this way. Yunning's task today is to buy rice, but his real goal is those expensive elf supplies. The rice is too heavy, so I will buy it when it comes out. Yunning went straight to the 4th floor of the mall after entering the gate of the mall, where it was selling elves. The security force on the 4th floor is obviously stronger, but it is not because you are afraid of stealing or robbing. It is impossible to run out from the 4th floor if you want to steal something. It's just that the value of the commodities on the 4th floor is relatively high, and I'm afraid that customers will have to argue with the mall for compensation after they are accidentally damaged. After all, Zhenxing town is a small town, and the variety of elves on the shelves is extremely limited. Before Yunning came to a shelf that sold pokeballs, he couldn't help but gasp when he saw the price of pokeballs. What the hell, a low-level red and white ball costs 1,000. Yunning whispered, isn't the red and white ball in the game only 200? And it's still Japanese yen, why is the pokeball in this world so expensive? The sales clerk next to him heard Yunning's words and stepped forward and said, Sir, the price of the pokeball is set by the Alliance, not by our own shopping malls. And the pokeball is definitely worth the money, and many places do not allow elves to enter. For example, trains and planes. At this time, you need to use pokeballs to put them away, otherwise there is no way to get up. The sales clerk's voice was very nice, with a standard professional smile on his face, Yunning with 8 white teeth flashing a little dazzlingly, oh, I'll just take a look, the best of you is this kind of pokeball. Is it? At this time, you can't panic, and you have to pretend that you know how to do it. Yes sir. If you want to buy super balls, you need to go to Qianda Plaza in the county seat, and if you want to buy high-end balls, you need to go to the elf supplies store in the city. The smile on the salesperson's face did not change. It's just that the jokes in his eyes are getting deeper and deeper. Generally speaking, the elf products in our shopping malls can meet the needs of the residents in the revitalized town. The implication is that our products may not be the best, but you are not necessarily affordable. Facts have proved that 4 years of college career is not enough to develop a thick skin. Even though Yunning is a transmigrator now, he is still a little embarrassed. Thanks to Yunning's face being tanned on the construction site these days, others can't tell if Yunning is blushing. No longer talking to the salesperson, Yunning quickly left the counter. These days I've been thinking about saving money to buy a BAA sheep, but I forgot about the pokeball. It seems that I have to prepare another 1,000 yuan to buy a pokeball. Thinking about it carefully, Father Yun's wrist strength has always been active outside, and Yunning has never seen his father pull his wrist strength back into the pokeball. The same is true for other wrist strengths on the construction site. Everyone enters the construction site with wrist strength. No one has ever summoned the wrist strength from the pokeball. It seems that everyone did not buy a pokeball for their own wrist strength. It is normal to think about it. A pokeball is 1,000 yuan, and it has a service life. It's not worth it for ordinary families. Most people don't have time to travel by themselves, let alone bring elves. As for using the pokeball to conquer the Pokemon as in the game, it is even more nonsense. After all, elves are intelligent creatures, not mindless puppets. If you beat it and then threw a pokeball on its head to force it down, it would like you to listen to you? What are you kidding? It is still light to run away overnight, for fear that people will knock you off while you are sleeping. The correct way to get along with elves is to give one's own feelings. Cats and dogs with low IQ in the past life can feel the owner's feelings for them, let alone the high-intelligence elves in this life. Thinking about the pokeball, Yunning unknowingly came to the counter in the center of the entire fourth-floor shopping mall. The fourth floor didn't have much passenger traffic. After all, there were not many trainers in Zhenxing town. At least half of the people on the entire floor gathered in front of the counter in the center. There are not many products on the counter, and each product is separated by a large space. The goods are packaged in boxes of different colors, which look exquisite, and the label on the counter reads in 4 large characters, Energy Cube. Power Cubes. Yunning couldn't help being surprised. He didn't expect to see this kind of high-level elf food for trainers in the shopping mall in Zhenxing town. The voices of customers chatting around came into Yunning's ears. It turned out that this energy cube was only settled in the Xintiandi Mall last week. The store owner hopes to use the energy cube to attract customers. For Zhenxing town, the energy cubes are indeed a bit advanced. The really powerful trainers in the town are used to going to the Qianda shopping mall in the county to buy energy cubes, while the customers who purchase elves in the Xintiandi shopping mall are usually of lower grades. Low trainer, low level means no money and limited spending power. Therefore, the owner of the Xintiandi shopping mall did not expect to make money by selling energy cubes, but just bought 5 different energy cubes, one for each type, to gather popularity. The price of low-level energy blocks is 3,000 pieces. It doesn't seem like there are many. Yunning can buy 1 brick for a month, but the problem is that energy cubes are consumables. The correct way to eat is 1 a day. In other words, using energy cubes to cultivate elves, the cost of 1 day is equivalent to a month's salary of ordinary people. What is burning money? Is this burning money? Is there anything more expensive than low-level energy cubes? That's the intermediate energy cube. From an economic point of view, energy cubes actually waste a lot of energy. Using the money to buy a low-level energy cube to buy other low-level food to cultivate elves, the improvement of the elves level is definitely better than eating a low-level energy cube directly. Come high. Is it a loss? No loss. Because you only consider the economy, but not time. Just like the food that humans eat every day is limited, the food that elves eat every day is also limited. The same 3,000 yuan is eaten in 1 day. If you need a month, then your training efficiency must be slower than others. A big chunk. A simple example, for a meal cost of 3,000 yuan, one athlete eats a lot of meat every day, while another athlete eats rice and cabbage every day. The former can practice after eating, and quickly convert the energy you eat into muscle, while another athlete theoretically consumes more energy than the former, but you don't dare to practice at all, because you consume it every day. There is too little energy, you can only practice and stop, and your time is wasted. You must know that elves also have a lifespan. The lifespan of the Baali sheep is only a short 10 years. If you can't make it evolve within a limited time, realize the improvement of life level, and prolong your lifespan, then the resources you invested in the early stage are equivalent to wasted. A low-level energy cube is 3,000. In theory, if you feed 1 piece a day, your elves will be able to enter the ranks of elementary elves from the novice stage in just 10 days. The economic cost is around 30,000. 100 days to enter the intermediate level, 1,000 days, that is, about 3 years, to become a high-level elf. You must know that the ink seahorse only has a lifespan of 5 years. Even if you feed it with all the primary energy cubes, it will take at least 3 years to have the chance to evolve into a sea thorn dragon. At the advanced level, the role of the low-level energy block becomes smaller. According to the efficiency of the low-level energy block, it takes a full 30 years to upgrade from the advanced level to the elite level. It's 300 years of horror. What concept? Dragon elf Kixie bluebirds are all hanging up, right? Therefore, starting from a high-level trainer, training elves will not use low-level energy cubes, but medium-level energy cubes. The efficiency of the intermediate energy block is 10 times that of the primary level, which means that it only takes 3 years for the advanced elves to take the intermediate energy block to be promoted to the elite level. If there is no money at the elite level, if you continue to use the intermediate energy block, it will take 30 years. Promoted to gym level. Although the time is long, at least there is hope in this life. And the price of an intermediate energy block is not 10 times that of a low-level energy block, but a full 50,000 yuan. After all, time is always more expensive than money. As for the legendary high-level energy cube, it is not something that Yun Ning can understand now. It is said that there are only 3 cities in the entire celestial dynasty, namely, the magic capital, the imperial capital and the demon capital, and they are controlled materials, which cannot be obtained by non-alliance direct members. This is also a means of controlling the gym-level trainers by the alliance. At the gym level, the ordinary affairs of the world can no longer arouse their interest. For them, forming a family of their own is the right thing to do. But there will always be some emergencies in this world. Someone needs to sacrifice their lives. The lives of the children of noble families are precious, so they can only use their interests to lure civilian geniuses to be cannon fodder for themselves. The reward is the right to purchase advanced energy blocks. That's right, it's just the right to purchase. If you want to get advanced energy blocks, you still need to keep paying. But this is enough, as long as they can get high-level energy blocks, then they have the hope of hitting the king level. That's a whole new field. I don't know what this energy cube is made of. It's so expensive. Let you know? The formula of the energy cube is strictly controlled by the alliance. If ordinary people want to learn, they can only be admitted to the top key universities in the country and choose the major of energy cube making. There are opportunities to learn, and after graduation, the students of this major are directly assigned to jobs by the alliance and become members of the direct line of the alliance. There are countless benefits and benefits. I heard that last year, our county's top student in the college entrance examination was admitted to Jianzhong University's energy cube making major. At that time, there were 200 tables set up in their house for people to eat for free. Really or not? Doesn't that mean a new family is going to be born in our county? Who said no? Learning how to make energy cubes can not only make money by making them, but also the elves you cultivate can eat energy cubes at the cost price. With the support of energy cubes, they can be born in just a few years. An advanced trainer. The conversation around aroused Yun Ning's curiosity, interjected and asked, "Is it difficult to learn how to make energy cubes?" The man didn't care who asked this question. He is now showing his erudition in front of everyone, enjoying the admiration of the people around him. The more questions other people have, the more it can show his huge knowledge reserve. Of course, think about it, if she can be admitted to one of the best majors in Qianzhong University, the energy cube production major, her college entrance examination score is beyond doubt, right? With such a high college entrance examination score, there must be no partial subjects. That is to say, her elf racial value, characteristics, evolutionary conditions, and battle tactics must have a high score. Ask yourself, how many points did you get in these subjects when you took the college entrance examination? Who doesn't rely on science, mathematics? Are you taking these points-giving subjects with elven social studies to get points? The man took the mineral water handed over by others, took a sip to moisten his throat, and continued, "Even a genius with such a high IQ needs a full 4 years of study to learn how to make energy cubes. Some students can't even make low-level energy cubes until they graduate, and they can only apply to repeat their studies for 1 year." The people around me talked a lot during the conversation. Some were lamenting the difficulty of the elves in the related subjects, and some were envious of the good luck of the family who passed the college entrance examination. Yun Ning couldn't help but move in his heart, the principle of the world axis. It can be heard from the conversation just now that it is very difficult to learn about making energy cubes in this world, which is obviously in line with the world axis theory. It takes a genius 4 years to barely master the production method of low-level energy cubes. This is unimaginable in games. Is it difficult to say that the energy cubes are all made by hand? Now that the technology is so advanced, can't assembly line work to reduce the production cost? Yun Ning hid in the crowd and asked his second question. Energy cubes can't be produced in factories. It is said that the production of energy cubes is full of uncertainties. The properties of each individual raw material are different. Manufacturers can only rely on their own experience to solve problems. There are subtle gaps in production. The energy cubes made will become defective products. The Alliance teaches the students how to make energy cubes, so aren't they afraid that the students will go out and spread the word? Who would spread the word? It's hard for people to cross a single plank bridge and get admitted to this major. If you learn this skill, you are willing to give it selflessly. What's more, it takes a full 4 years for a genius to learn. What if the skills are spread out in front of you? You probably won't be able to make them for the rest of your life, right? According to the current policy of the Alliance, whoever can make an energy cube can directly join the Alliance and become the trainer of the Alliance's direct line. The original intention of the Alliance to control the low-level energy cube formula is to hope that ordinary people will not pursue such things as making energy cubes. In the past, ordinary universities also opened this major, and as a result, often none of the entire university graduates could graduate successfully. Later, the Alliance felt that releasing this thing would waste many people's time, so it was stipulated that only key universities could offer this major. How many energy cubes can an energy cube maker make in a day? How much money can one make? This is really hard to say. Only the maker knows the profit of energy cubes. Everyone's daily production volume is different. Also, those who can make energy cubes are called elf cultivators by the Alliance. It is said that high-level elf cultivation the family can make the most suitable energy cubes according to the characteristics of different elves. There is a group of high-level elves cultivators in each big family, to formulate the most scientific cultivation plan for the children of the big family, and to provide the best quality energy cubes. So the children of the big family grow up much faster than us commoners. After that, the topic started to dissipate a little. Yun Ning listened for a while, but didn't have any content that he was interested in, so he left the crowd and walked in front of the energy cube, hoping to observe this thing that he couldn't afford up close. Whether you can't afford it or have a look, this is Yun Ning's inner thought. This is it. Yun Ning resisted the excitement in his heart and tried his best to make his expression look calmer. The Pokédex is actually useful for energy blocks. Yes, in Yun Ning's field of vision at this moment, the data frame that appeared when he observed his father's wrist strength appeared. Item, red energy cube level, low effect, slightly replenish the energy of fire type and fighting type elves. Recipe, sakura fruit, no flower fruit, apple wild fruit, cranberry fruit production method. It's developed. Yun Ning exclaimed in his heart. Unexpectedly, this kind of energy cube recipe, which only the elites of major universities can learn, was actually obtained by myself. You must know that you are not an aboriginal in this world. The world axis of this world has no effect on itself. Compared with people in this world, learning to make energy cubes by yourself has a natural advantage. Yingziguo, Wuhuaguo, Pingyeguo, and cranberry fruit are all sold on the 4th floor of the Xintiandi shopping mall, and the price is not expensive, only 50 yuan per piece. These tree fruits are just ordinary elf supplies. Many junior trainers who cannot afford energy cubes choose to feed their elves. After all, although the energy contained in tree fruits is not as good as energy cubes, it is also better, much cheaper. If you buy 60 tree fruits with the money of 1 energy cube, the power of the elves will still increase more than the energy cube. Yun Ning walked in front of several other energy cubes, and sure enough, the production methods of each energy cube were shown in Yuning's illustrated book and stored. The 5 energy blocks that Xintiandi entered this time are red, blue, pink, green, and yellow. And these 5 are also the most basic energy block colors. Each energy block can improve the strength of the corresponding attribute elf. If an elf has 2 attributes, then the corresponding 2 energy blocks must be taken. Otherwise, one of the attributes is too strong and will break the energy balance in the elf, with catastrophic consequences. There was once a trainer who had a whimsical idea to let his dumb beast take only the purple energy cube representing the superpower department, hoping that his dumb beast could go further in the direction of the superpower department. The beast died due to the depletion of the water system energy in the body and the shrinking of the body. What's more, a trainer thinks that his 9 tails have a strong superpower talent, and forcibly gave his 9 tails a purple energy cube. As a result, his 9-tailed superpowers have not improved, but the strength of the fire element has been reversed. Start going backwards. You know, elves can only eat 1 energy cube a day. Just like humans can only eat 3 meals a day, the amount of food an organism can take in is limited. If you force 2 energy cubes into an elves, the elves will pull 1 out. Therefore, it is very important to control the diet of elves reasonably. Of course, these are the troubles of the rich. For ordinary people, even letting their elves eat a tree fruit a day is an extravagant hope. How dare they think of energy cubes? 1 fruit a day costs 1,500 yuan a month. Yun Ning remembered that when he went to university in his previous life, his monthly living expenses were only 1,000 yuan. Just like Father Yun's wrist strength, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com is 8 years old this year, and he has never eaten a single fruit. Since birth, Father Yun has been feeding it with human food. It took about 8 years. With more than 10,000 food expenses, his strength has been raised to level 12. The lifespan of the wrist force is only 20 years. Father Yun's wrist force has lived for almost half of the time. The foundation laid when he was young is too poor. There is basically no possibility of evolution in this life, unless Father Yun starts to feed it with low-level energy cubes. It, however, is clearly not possible. Elves are really similar to pets in previous lives. Dogs from rich families eat all kinds of meat and calcium tablets from time to time. Dogs from poor families can only eat leftovers from their owners. If the owner eats meat, then he can still gnaw on some bones. Previously, Yun Ning was very confused about his future, because he couldn't afford to pay the high cost of cultivating elves. I know my own abilities. I have no talent for making money after graduation in my previous life. I can only enter the company to get a little dead salary. Even if I travel to this world, the result will not be too bad. Therefore, he understands very well that Father Yun refuses to give out money to help him buy elves. After all, why should others trust you when he is not sure of himself? But it's different now. With the help of Goldfinger, as long as you can master the method of making energy cubes, then the most urgent funding problem can be effectively alleviated. Yun Ning spent all the 1,000 yuan he earned in 10 days to buy tree fruit. If he wants to get a return, he must invest. Yun Ning still understands this truth. Fortunately, the production of energy cubes in this world does not require a special fruit mixer, otherwise the amount of money on Yun Ning would not be enough to start up. Under the street lamp, a figure with a bag of tree fruit in his left hand and a bag of rice in his right hurriedly disappeared into the night.